On today's TCE Trim, Pac-12 expansion news, and the Mountain West suffers in the recent Conference Realignment blow edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with our promo code TCESGPN to score up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. Welcome, everybody, into the college basketball experience. TCE Trim, Pac-12 expansion, and the Mountain West suffers the recent conference realignment blow. We will talk about it here and break it down and what it means for each league going forward. But first off, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. Also known as Mac Tonight, over here at the College Basketball Experience. And joining me for this TCE Trim, you guys know him as the host of the College Baseball Experience and co-host of the College Basketball Experience. He is the drywall hanging, window banging, LeBaron driving, Noah Bieniek, a.k.a. Noah B77_. What is up, bro?
What's up, Mac? Back with more conference realignment talk. This is the fun stuff, right? Picking apart and pulling apart and ripping off the Velcro attached to all these conferences piece by piece. Now it's the Mountain West's turn to feel miserable after losing 4 of its biggest and best programs and brands. For those that, if you've been under a rock, Boise State, San Diego State, Fresno State, and Colorado State all this morning announced that they would be joining the Pac-12, that they've accepted invites, that they submitted their application, that it was accepted. All 4 teams joining the Pac-12. We now have 6 teams in the Pac-12. Mac, we call it the 6-pack.
We do call it the 6-pack. And honestly, it's going to be an entertaining 6-pack because you kind of look at it. I mean, San Diego State was able to finally knock down that door in the NCAA tournament for the Mountain West. But they've been a sustainable program for a decade plus now. But the 2 programs that, you know, once upon a time, San Diego State was like kind of like these 2 programs where they couldn't win a game in the tournament or they couldn't get over the hump. That's Boise and Colorado State. Leon Rice, they've been to 3 straight tournaments. Nico Medved, 2 out of the last 3. Fresno hasn't got there yet, but maybe going into, I guess, what will be a Power 5 now. We'll go back to a Power 5. Maybe some more resources, more NIL money, more recruiting money. Maybe they can take these programs to the next level in the Pac-12. Just don't bring back the Pac-12 network.
I think the Pac-12 network's coming back, buddy.
Oh God, no.
So yeah, I mean, this is the Wild West topic. You know, so Colby and Nick already delivered a football-centric Pac-12 expansion show. If you're looking for that, head over there. This show, after we let news develop over the day, we're going to try to deliver a little bit more news and facts for you. Colby, like, immediately, like, elbow jerk reaction as soon as the news came out. He was so excited to make these graphics and put them out on Twitter of his new Pac-12, his new Mountain West.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that are going to go into place here that I think is going to keep a couple of those things from happening in his and maybe other college sports fans' dream worlds and fantasies. We're going to talk about that on the other side of this show. We're going to take a quick break because the NFL and college football are back in full swing. Make sure you subscribe to the Sports Gambling Podcast and the College Football Experience for free picks for every game against the spread. The NFL is back, and Underdog Fantasy Pick'em gives you a chance to win 1,000x your entry. Sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick, plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. Have you ever wanted to create your own sports betting model for football, basketball, baseball? SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to create and customize predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. RITHMM. And the college basketball experience is also brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business, BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 40 years, and they have a massive props menu, same-game parlays, and some of the best boosts in the business, plus an all-new live betting experience. Use our link to sign up and get a 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Use promo code SGPN so they know we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. So, Mac, let's get down and dirty into the nitty gritty of this whole thing and talk about how this happened. First off, yeah, the Pac-2 was not a joke. It was still around. I think that was one thing that I kind of overlooked, that they could do this. I don't think it was their first option. I think they truly did want to join the Big 12. But Yormark had other decisions. And from what it sounds like, it went against Disney as well. And I think Disney's pretty pissed that this Pac-12 is sticking around. I think they wanted this thing to be gone. And we'll see how the term power conference is used on the Pac-12 moving forward. But these programs are going to be receiving power conference money, for the record. Yeah. That's the big thing here, is a lot of people will look at, hey, why are Boise State, San Diego State, Fresno State, and Colorado State making what seems to be a lateral move? So the Pac-12 is using a piece of pie as the imagery here, and they want to cut the pie into big slices with less schools. This thus means more money to each school. You're not going to have 18, 16 teams in a conference, or even 14 like Colby wants in the Mountain West, or it was Pac-12 maybe. I can't remember. He had 12 and 14 on one of them. It sounds like this is going to be an 8-10 team max conference, and you're going to get big chunks of money to each member rather than split it around 16 different teams in the conference. Mac, do you like this idea?
Yeah, it makes sense for the members, and there's a loyalty towards them, because also it's like, hey, we stuck it out. We survived with you guys. I'm pulling up Colby's graphic right now. He had obviously the 6, but then he had UTSA, he had UNLV, Tulane, Texas State, Rice, and Memphis. So I don't think that any of those are going to go there. We'll talk about it here in a little bit. On who maybe could be next, but yeah, it makes total sense for those 4 Mountain West schools, because they're getting a bigger chunk of the pie. That's been the whole thing with the Big Ten and SEC, where they're reluctant to add, because it's like, hey, are they adding value, or are we just adding a number here? They every program, every school, every institution wants the biggest number for themselves, not, hey, what about Northwestern, or what about Rutgers? It's every school for themselves at this point. If that's anything we can take away from conference realignment. So I'm sure there's going to be plenty more dominoes to fall. This thing never seems to go away, as much as I can't stand it. Especially when we start playing games. But hey, I had the Pac-2, the Pac-6. Pac-12, six-pack, whatever you want to call them, they're not dead yet.
No, not at all. And I think they're going to thrive. I think this is a fun 6 teams, and it's not going to grow too much. And so there's a couple of FAQs, frequently asked questions, going around that I see, and I'm going to do my best to try to answer these on the show with you here, Mac, today. People might ask, well, okay, so we understand that these teams are going to get more money because they go to the Pac-12. How did the Pac-12 get more money? So the Pac-12 naturally has the bigger brand than the Mountain West, and I have my notes on notebook paper today instead of my laptop because it's ready to explode. 7 years, it might be done, but Pac-12 is the bigger brand. They've got more resources. They were established all the way back in 1915. The Mountain West was established in 1998. They are estimating, and by they, this is in Ross Dellinger's article with Yahoo Sports, estimating possibly over $200 million in assumed revenue from contracts with bowl games such as the Rose Bowl and or NCAA tournaments and college football playoff appearances by former members and or possibly current, if Oregon State or Washington State pulls off perceived as the impossible. But those Pac-12 members, former Pac-12 members, they owe the Pac-12 for, releasing or disbanding their contract early. They have to pay the buyout, and also some of those loyalties or ties or whatever, their performance, the money goes to the Pac-12. Plus the Pac-12 Pac-12 Enterprises, which was formerly Pac-12 Network, still exists, and it's assumed that it's going to be picked up by a media conglomerate at some point if this thing follows through. What could that mean? The Big Ten Network currently is under like the Fox umbrella. The SEC network is currently under the ESPN umbrella. The Big 12 network, ESPN umbrella. ACC network, the ESPN umbrella. The reason why I think Disney and ESPN is pretty upset that they didn't kill off, for lack of a better term, the Pac-12 is that Fox might be able to pick up a second network if they want, or even CBS or NBC could slide in and put the Pac-12 network or Pac-12 Enterprises, as it's currently labeled, under their umbrella and toss them even more dollar bill and help these programs out.
No, you've dove into this more than me in terms of the TV side of it. Have they talked about potentially just being streaming only?
That was something that they wanted to do. They wanted to do Apple the last time. And for whatever reason, it didn't happen. I don't know if they're still going to go down that route. That would seem pretty stubborn to me after it failed to come to fruition. And then you saw it all blow up in their face. But from what it sounds like, for example, I think, Mac, you might know this number better than me. I think each program in the Big 12 is getting 30 or 35 million.
Yeah. God, what number? I think it's
and the ACC. The ACC is right around. Okay.
Yeah.
And the ACC is right around there too. Okay, so estimated over 200 mil in the next 2 years until 2026. The Pac-12 needs to have at least 8 members to fully reform itself. The NCAA gives all conferences that fall apart a grace period of 2 years. If you're unable to form a league of 8 members or more, then the conference is officially done, dead. That's not going to happen with the Pac-12. It sounds like there are more programs and athletic departments that want to join the Pac-12. Let's say that, your number is 300 million that you're getting from your media rights deal. You have 10 teams, you get 30 million. it doesn't make any sense for this new Pac-12 to have 14 or 16 teams when you're trying to keep up with other power conferences like
be 10.
Big 12 or ACC. You're probably going to sit at 10 or 8 because at 10 you'll get 30 million per program. At 8 you'll get a little more than 30 million per program, and that kind of gets you close to the Big 12 ACC range. That's where the Pac-12 wants to be at. Mac, any other questions before I move on from that specific topic?
I just looked it up. The Big 12 next year will be 44. So, but a lot of it too is that the newcomers don't make as much as the, I guess, core 8. That
maybe that was the 35 that I was thinking of.
Yeah, and it's the same for Oregon and Washington, and I'm sure Cal and Stanford as well in the ACC. And then SMU just said, "Screw it, we'll just pay our way and be a walk on for until the foreseeable future."
So yeah, that's kind of how the thought process is going here, and where they're kind of getting the money. And again, I'm just spitballing numbers, but I'm throwing out a nice round number of 300 mil per year in this media rights deal because it's easy to conclude. Oh, each team, each of the 10 programs would get estimated 30 million per year.
More than the Mountain West, that's for sure.
Yeah. The next frequently asked question that I see is there are 2 spots that they are leaving open here. It must be for Cal or Stanford. That's not going to happen. Cal and Stanford made the jump initially because they didn't want to wait on this perhaps idea that seemed like a long shot at the time. They didn't have the patience for it. And Dan Wetzel on the College Football Inquirer already said that Stanford didn't mind the travel for sports. They were already flying their women's field hockey team into the America East to play field hockey games against Bryant, Maine, and UMass Lowell. They don't give a shit. And Pat Forty on that show, and Pat Forty on that show also was saying that they currently have like 6 programs in fall athletics ranked in the top 10. Stanford is a very, very prestigious athletic department, even though the football team is not where it used to be, not where they want it to be. But that decision was more than just a football decision for Stanford. They didn't care. They wanted to be in a league, in a conglomerate of other programs and members, so they could get their athletic sports, without any pause, kind of how Oregon State and Washington State have to split their time in the Mountain West and the WCC this year. Stanford didn't want that. And Cal, it's kind of both of these programs, for what it's worth, it's kind of the superiority complex. They don't want to be hanging around a lot of these other teams that they feel that they are better, bigger, and superior than. Mac, any other questions that you have on that?
No, I think you covered it. It sucks for the fan in me of the Mountain West. I'm not gonna lie, I love the Mountain West. I've talked with the Mountain West multiple times, especially from the basketball. This is a basketball show compared to Colby's the football side.
Yeah,
football's coming along, but basketball's already there. I mean, they were 6-bid league last year, or five or I forget which one, 6, and then UNLV could have been 7. So it does suck that it's going to go over to a new league and kind of break up some of these. But hey, man, that's like everything else. I mean, the Big East used to be the great thing, and it evolved, and now I got the Big 12. That's the Premier League, and the Mountain West was coming along, being one of the up and coming leagues. Finally got over the hump with San Diego State. Hey, you know what? Maybe I'll start rooting for the Pac-12 in basketball with some of these schools I've learned to really love, and San Diego State, Boise, and Colorado State, and got to get Fresno going now too.
Yeah. The next thing that I see the question thrown around a lot is how were these 4 teams selected, and why was UNLV not included?
Great question on the last one.
Yeah. So the Pac-12 provided criteria for additional new members, according to Dellinger. Brand power, on-field success, and television markets move the needle more than everything. But they also said the other factors they consider are they want academic prestige. They want, commitment from both fans and athletic department on the financial side. And they're also looking for multiple athletic programs to compete in sports across, whether it's a money making sport or not. The UNLV portion of things got tricky because there are some politics that go on in these things. You look at the state of Oklahoma, where it did not have, this in place, and Oklahoma was able to dance away scot-free and possibly end Bedlam forever with Oklahoma State, leaving Oklahoma State and the Cowboys in the Big 12, and Oklahoma is now in the SEC. The state of Nevada was not going to let that happen between UNLV and Nevada. So Nevada is not nearly as attractive in Reno than UNLV in Las Vegas for the Pac-12. And the Pac-12 chose to look elsewhere, and they're going to continue to do so. And that, I think, is why the two remaining spots are open more than it is for the possibility of Cal or Stanford to join the Pac-12. Mac.
The Cal and Stanford aren't coming back, like you said. That's the ship has, I almost said shit. That ship has sailed. Those two pieces of shit have sailed too. I think, man, I think a school like Utah State and maybe New Mexico are two programs that they may look at. I mean, they've already got in Utah. You already got two premier programs in BYU and Utah in the Big 12. Maybe Utah State could be the next one in that state, and then I think also New Mexico. I mean, that's a proud program. That's a proud fan base. Maybe they could move the needle a little bit if they could just get a little bit more competitive in football. The basketball is already there.
Yeah. The Utah State, I think, is a true player to be one of these extra teams that gets added. That's going to be the next portion of this that we talk about. Who could the Pac-12 possibly add next? I think Utah State's a contender, but I don't think it's one of the front runners. I think they want to get into Texas. And honestly, there is no regionality right now in conferences. They're looking anywhere and everywhere. I think the two biggest programs and athletic departments and fan bases that you could grab are Memphis and Tulane. I think those two, especially Memphis on the basketball side for our side of things here with the college basketball experience, would be pretty fun if they got into a power conference. Tulane and a hotbed for recruiting in Louisiana, not only for football, for just athletes in general. And the Texas thing is interesting because, I mean, it's the same thing. Just it's a hotbed for athletics. But I don't think there's your typical big brand name available currently. After SMU dashed over to the ACC, they really kind of fucked themselves here because they could have gotten a good offer from the Pac-12 to join and represent that Dallas market in the Pac-12. Right now, you probably got Texas State, UNLV, or Texas State, UTSA, not UNLV. Yeah. Texas State, UTSA, UTEP, and there's one more I think that I'm missing, but Rice was Colby's other one. Those are your four, I think, in Texas that would be under consideration, but I don't think any of them move the needle like a Memphis or Tulane.
Let me ask you this. What if Texas State goes to and I know they're in a barn burner right now at Arizona State. What if they go to the college football playoff? I think that changes their whole brand and name recognition. Texas State, the Bobcats. I mean, I think they skyrocket right to the top of the leaderboard if they can somehow get to the college football playoff and win the Sun Belt. Rice, man, I don't think the love for the athletics is there at Rice. I know they're in Houston. UTSA, the Roadrunners. I think that they do have a loyal fan base, but it seems like Texas State is now slowly starting to take over as a premier G5 school in Texas. Why can't SMU jump? It's not like they're under money. It's not like they're getting paid anything.
They signed the grant of rights, which is the other issue with Cal and Stanford.
True.
So they're locked in to 2036.
Yeah.
So, like, they want to get in Texas, and I would consider that a mistake unless, like, it's a pretty big knee-jerk reaction. But if Texas State gets into the playoff, you're taking them on their current pedigree and not like the entire pedigree and the established culture in a athletic department, like a Tulane or a Memphis. Like those fan bases as well just seem larger to me in general. That's where I think this is going to end, with those two, with Utah State closely in the mix, one of those small Texas schools in the mix, New Mexico State in the mix, or UNLV Nevada as a package deal. But I think that's like dead last in possibilities here. Liberty, I think, is, Colby said it today on the other show, the College Football Experience show ACC. On this. They seem like an AAC team, like an American fill-in once Tulane or Memphis get plucked.
Yeah, but then ultimately, I think Liberty and JMU, with the way that they've rose, will end up in the ACC.
They very well could. Anything else that we want to touch on the Pac-12 side of things before we move to the Mountain West?
No, I think we've laid it out. I like Utah State. I think I think that they're going to be right there to get an invite.
Utah is a state that's growing in population, as was emphasized by Dan Wetzel in that Yahoo podcast today, with Dellinger, who broke the news. So Utah State's a player. I've already voiced my opinion on what I think happens here. On the Mountain West side of things, the one frequently asked question, FAQ, that I think I have an answer here for is a lot of people think that the Mountain West is just going to disband, fall apart. Teams and members are going to dash to other places. I am here to say that I don't believe that's going to happen, and I feel like that's a 98% confidence pick from me. Because of the scheduling alliance that Oregon State and Washington State made with Mountain West in football, there was a clause in that basically said that if you tried to poach any of our members, you will like owe us money. And from the way it sounds, they're going to be paying near $100 million to acquire just these 4 members from the Mountain West. The Mountain West is just going to use that money to reacquire teams. Your current FBS entrance fee, like if a team is looking to transfer or transform their program from an FCS to an FBS, in recent years, if not this year, the fee was changed from $5,000 to $5 million. And that was made to kind of hinder the mass exodus from the FCS level to the FBS. Like we've seen some trickling, some like climb to 134 here, but the Mountain West is just going to use this millions of dollars that they're going to get from the Pac-12 to take some of these really good FCS football programs and add them to their conference. So you're directly looking at like the North Dakota State, the South Dakota State, Montana State, those 4 at least. And
this should be fun.
Yeah, and it could be pretty interesting. Like you could probably add New Mexico State to this conference with New Mexico, and that could be, like you said, fun. They want to get into Texas as well, and this is where I think most of those directional small city Texas schools have their best chance of a good payday, is jumping into the Mountain West here. But yeah, I think that's what the money is going to go to, and I think that's what a lot of people don't realize, is that the Mountain West is going to get a lot of money from this poaching that the Pac-12 just did.
Yeah, and honestly, it kind of almost makes the Mountain West from a football standpoint more fun, man. If they do go the South Dakota State and North Dakota State route, those are some teams that can win games in Power 5 leagues already. And then you mentioned it in New Mexico State, we saw what they did with Jerry Kill. And then on the basketball front, those are all respectable basketball programs as well. So I think it does suck to lose some of the teams that you're used to being in a certain league, but it does create a potential some new rivalries and a little bit of regionality with the Mountain West. I think the Mountain West will keep it regionality, unlike the Pac-12, the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Big 12. The only one that's really kept it regional is the SEC.
Yeah, but they kept it regional because they had their first choice at all this shit. So
correct. Yep.
Winners and losers. This is the college basketball experience. Let's talk about some. Actually, before we move on to that, any other questions or comments that you've seen a lot on the Mountain West side? There hasn't been nearly as many for MWC as I've seen for Pac-12, mainly because that's just the society that we live in. The bigger league is the Pac-12. A lot more people are just TMZ, more interested in that. But I think the Mountain West is going to have a really fun league. That's my takeaway on this.
Yeah, the Mountain West isn't going anywhere. It'll be interesting to see the trickle down, which league really gets hit the hardest. Because it'll be one of the littler leagues at the bottom that just keeps losing team after team.
I mean, the Big Sky in the Summit League.
Yep.
Basketball-wise, if they're losing the Dakotas and the Montanas, that would be the early front runner, I think, because both of those schools in each respective league is like the headquarter for the league or like the heartbeat of the league. In the Montana case, I don't know where the Big Sky headquarters is off the top of my head. So biggest winners and losers. Let's start with winners for the college basketball side of things. And I think the no-brainer San Diego State, like they took their program to a national championship, part of the Mountain West, and now they're going to get Pac-12 money located in SoCal, and they seem to be more invested in the athletics than other SoCal athletic departments.
I would say, or from the basketball side, I'd say Oregon State and Wazoo. They're playing games in the WCC this year. Now that they can go back to just a regular basketball league, and add teams that have been to we're just in the tournament. In one game, San Diego State, Colorado State, Boise. So I think Oregon State and Wazoo are the two big winners on the basketball front.
Yeah, for sure. Is there a specific? So my loser from the basketball front was going to be Oregon State, because I like.
Why do you think
short term? I don't think they're in a great program state right now. And I thought they were going to be competitive in the WCC. Now you are probably going to be the bottom feeder basketball wise in this Pac-12.
But it's more stability. I mean, at some point you got to invest in your program. I mean, that's a bigger issue than if you're the winner or loser here.
You made it an Elite Eight 5 years ago, but
yeah, if you want to win, you got to invest. So
the tough part is like you have to invest in your program, but that coach that you might have to invest and also get rid of, like he was the one that kind of delivered that Elite Eight, albeit a very hot streak run in March. Do you have a loser? Do you have a specific loser?
In the Pac-12 or Mountain West?
The conference realignment that we just saw within the past 24 hours.
UNLV and Nevada.
Good point.
Because they're not going anywhere, and they lost. I mean, UNLV and San Diego State had a little bit of pop to it, and Nevada and New Mexico had played some big time games with Alford. Now, I mean, you're losing some underrated rivalries that had formed over here in this really surging Mountain West over the last couple of years.
Yep, that's the dark side the whole conference realignment idea. It's fun. We get plenty of clicks from providing this content, but the people side and the program side and the fan side of things, it's a little bit of a downer. But at the end of the day, I would say the biggest winner of this all was Washington State, because like the basketball wise, I had my concerns about Oregon State, but I'm going to include both of them in this. Washington State and Oregon State on the winning side, just in general. Kudos to you guys for sticking this thing out and actually believing that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. That's like one of my favorite sayings as well. It's dark and twisted, but sometimes the light at the end of the tunnel might not be daylight. It might be a train.
Like that's Bieniek over here, everybody.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite sayings. But it turns out they chase something and it's going to come to fruition, and they're going to have a really good product, I do believe. And I think it might even be better than the Pac-12 network. I think people are going to see value in this league, and hopefully they get picked up by one of the other media conglomerates, and they shove it right back into ESPN and Disney's face.
I hope so, man. I don't like ESPN, so I like Wazoo. I like Oregon State. But something tells me this whole realignment shit ain't over yet.
Oh, hell no. I mean, it's going to be the Mountain West turn, and then it's going to trickle into the FCS, a.k.a. our mid-majors and low majors and our beloved college basketball.
Well, and Big 12 will have another round here too soon.
My last thing is I don't hate ESPN. I think they deliver great coverage of all of these, like all these little conferences. ESPN has been tremendous, amazing. But the way they treated the Pac-12 was dog shit.
I think ESPN sucks. I think their product has gone downhill over the past couple of years.
I ain't complaining. ESPN Plus, I can watch any little school that I want. I ain't complaining. Both on basketball side, baseball side, football side. I think their product can go down. Just give me a fucking camera on the field or court of whatever sport I'm trying to watch, and I'll like it. And you'll get my $5 a month or whatever it is. Maybe it's $6.99 or whatever. I don't care. I think ESPN Plus is the best purchase I've made. David said you can't bring a bunch of G5 teams into the PAC and expect it to be a power conference. Like we said earlier in the show, when you're paying a bunch of G5 programs power conference money,
then they're
going to turn
5
into a power conference, in my belief. The only way that like it truly just gets stomped on is if the college football playoff just flicks it and just whips out its dick and says, no, you're not getting an auto bid. But if they reform by 2026 in the current contract, they have an auto bid until like 2032. The only reason why they don't have an auto bid for the next 2 years is because they're in the middle of this grace period. And if they don't have 8 members, then they get totally disbanded and their conference is dead. But that's not going to be the case, and they're going to be alive and well. And Boise State with an extra $15 million is going to be dangerous.
Somewhere Bill Walton's smiling tonight.
I don't know about that.
Conference of Champions still live, baby.
Yeah, but his school's not in it.
Nah, screw UCLA. He's smiling. He still likes that Pac-12 logo.
All right, that's gonna wrap up today's TCE Trim. This was a really interesting one. I had fun understanding, or at least attempting to try to understand what the hell is going on here. I'm fascinated by it all. So even if I wasn't doing the show, I'd be doing it anyway. So let us know what other headlines in the news that you guys want us to cover, because Mac and I are going to be doing these TCE Trims every midweek day, Sunday night through Thursday night, This week we are thinking about doing one Friday night because we didn't do one Sunday night. But hit us up on Twitter. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Somebody last night hit us up on TCE SGPN, the show's account, and said, "Can you do a TCE trim on this?" Like we weren't living on a rock, and this wasn't going to be the automatic idea. So I love. I can't remember who it was, and I feel like a dickhead for bringing that up, but we love it. And hit us up about anything. We'll talk about almost anything on a dull news day, but this one definitely wasn't, because I love how all of this. The big loser of the day was the Big East. They had their whole schedule released today, and John Fanto is at the heart of it, and
nobody cares.
That was so funny that this thing just completely overshadowed all of that. So yeah, moneyline_Mac for Mac, for myself, Noah B77_ for all social media. Here on YouTube, we've got all of these TCE trims playlisted. A lot of this has kind of been evergreen so far. Some of them might not be, but I mean, you can listen to this a week after and still learn some things, I feel like. Also our conference previews and Mac's summer school coaches tour, where he's interviewing a ton of mid-major college basketball head coaches. Check those things out. You can binge all 3 series here from the college basketball experience, or you can even find playlists on the college football experience, the college baseball experience, the Big 12 college experience, the FCS college football experience. Or if you scroll a little bit farther on our YouTube channel, you'll find more from the SGPN. We cover everything. We've got something for everybody. And the Sports Gambling Podcast does a great job at dipping their toes into every big event while also covering the NFL daily. One last thing before we get out of here. Click like, please. Hit subscribe. Leave a like, rating, review, wherever you're listening to this on the podcast platform side. This has been fun. I really enjoy doing these. And this has been the college basketball experience. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.